My name is Patrick Davis. I grew up in South Carolina. I've lived in Nashville, Tennessee for the past 20 or so years, writing songs and making a living in the music business. So it's been pretty good. I realized that music was going to be what I did for the rest of my life at a fairly young age. I was probably 16 or 17 years old when I started playing guitar and started recognizing that not only did I enjoy it, but other folks seemed to enjoy it as well when I would perform. And then I got paid a little bit for it. You get a gig here or there, and that translated into what is now a lifelong career that I wanted. The Willie Nelson model is what I'm going for. I'm never going to stop playing. I feel like if I stop playing, I don't know what the point would be. So writing songs, playing music, and I guess just everything music. I mean, I do a lot of different things, but everything goes back to songwriting and music. So, yeah, it's been a lifelong passion, I guess, from about re- early high school is when I figured it out. Yeah, I would say that I am multifaceted when it comes to music and the business of music. Most of my friends that are songwriters have a tendency, or performers, that's kind of what they do. They're very focused on they're only going to write songs or they're only going to play shows. I kind of enjoy a lot of different things, and I guess I get bored easily. So I write songs, I record my own music, albums, I collaborate with songwriters and artists all over the world to write songs for their projects. And I also have created a number of, entrepreneurial uh, events that I do called Songwriters in Paradise. And that's a festival where I bring together a lot of my friends that are accomplished, Grammy winning, award winning, talented singer songwriters together to go to places that are, well, about this extraordinary, I guess. And that's another facet of what I do. Everything though always stems back to music. It's even I own a whiskey, but that right there still started because some people that love my music found me. So everything's music based for me, and I'm very fortunate to get to do what I get to do for a living, and that is not lost on me, and I hope it never is. I suppose the moment in my life, my musical career, that made me kind of realize I was on the right path. Um, there's a number of them. I'll say the one that was probably the most groundbreaking for myself was I was in college at the University of South Carolina, and at that time, the Hootie and the Blowfish guys lived in Columbia, and they were. This is the late '90s, early 2000s. They had already attained incredible stardom, and they would come to my shows. And Mark Bryan, who's the guitar player for Hootie, came up to me one night at a event and said, "You're great, but you got to start writing your own music. That's if you want to do this for a career, that's what you have to do." And I always go back to that moment because you can go down the mountain to Chattanooga, or you can go downtown Broadway in Nashville, and there's always amazing artists and songwriters. When maybe they're going to be songwriters, they're artists first, though. They're playing in the corner, playing a bunch of cover songs, and that life is great. You get paid well, you get to do what you like to do, but the longevity of that is very difficult because you kind of plateau very early. And so I often go back to that moment. I can still remember it was a house party in Columbia, South Carolina, when Mark told me, "You got to write your own music. That's how you're going to last in this business." And and 25 years later, I have to say thank you, Mark. I would have to say that my songwriting process has evolved over the years considerably. When I first moved to Nashville, I fell into a trap that is very easy to fall into in Nashville because it is the music business. And that is that you write songs, almost every day. You get a publishing deal at this big publishing company that everybody's, like, wow, you got that publishing company. You're writing for those guys. They're paying you now. And before you know it, you're writing 200 or 300 songs in a year because you write every day with different people. And while that works for some folks, it didn't work for me because I felt like I wasn't writing from an honest place. And about 6 or 7 years ago, I decided, even though I'd had you know dozens and dozens of songs recorded and I'd made money in the business, I was not happy with a lot of those songs. I said I want to get back to doing what I want to do, make it to where it's the reason why I started playing music and writing songs in the first place, and that is, James Taylor or the Beatles or Jim Croce or Bill Withers. Why did I start writing songs? I wanted to try to write those types of songs, and those songs weren't written for the most part on Music Row at 10 in the morning. They were written from a real place, a place of very honest and from the soul. And so I've really tried to tap into that now, to where I don't. Now I still, because I am very good at the craft of songwriting, like many of us from Nashville are, I can take an idea that's just a song title and I can write that and make someone believe that I live that. And that's a really, really powerful tool to have in your toolbox. But I tend to these days write songs that are more authentic and try very, very hard to make sure that what I'm doing means as much to me as it should to the listener, or I hope it does to the listener, because I feel like you can feel it. And there's a difference in that. And sometimes the music business gets in the way of music. And that goes for a lot of things, but definitely in songwriting. So try to just keep it honest and real, and not always the easiest thing to do, but in the long run, I think it pays off. Writing songs is a extremely personal experience. So when you do it well, I think, or when you do it right, and you pull from, things around you, but I think a lot of the best songs come from what's inside of you, and sometimes that's very painful. Hopefully, more times than not, it's exciting, or it's relieving. I like to think of songwriting sometimes as very therapeutic, and it gets out some ideas and feelings maybe you didn't even know that you had. And I've written a number of songs over the years that kind of fall in that category, that have helped me understand situations. I'd say I have a song called Dixie Lullaby, which is a really beautiful song, and it's really a story about growing up. My granddad was a hard ass and a farmer in South Carolina, and it kind of stems from that. I've written some heartbreak songs that are that kind of hit home, and sometimes those stories aren't even necessarily about me, but they're feelings that I have for friends, or emotions that I have with I've seen with my friends or family members. We mentioned Scared to Dream, which is an old song of mine. I actually haven't played that song in many, many years. I don't even think I could remember it. But I do remember vividly writing that song because a girl had broken my heart when I was 22 years old, and I was just, in silent desperation, sitting there with my guitar, and that's what came out. And I'd like to think that when I am at my best, I'm being honest, not just with the audience, but with myself. And the audience can tell that. We keep going back to that honesty thing, but the audience can tell it. If you would have met me 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I was not a different person, but I wasn't as honest with myself as like, well, this is who I am, and I'm okay with that, and I'm very happy with that. And I think that people pick up on that because it's very hard to be honest, and we're all searching for it. So I think songwriting is something that when it's done well, and some artists, they might write their entire career and only one song is the one song that everybody gravitates towards because that's the one that they feel is the most honest. And I believe that's what we're all trying to attain as songwriters, is how do we give those honest assumptions of our lives to people, or examples of our lives, because everyone is trying to figure out how to get through this day-to-day existence that we all have. And I think that's the most beautiful part of art and songwriting, is that it takes, something that we can't really understand, and it brings some comprehension to it. I think doubt and being afraid are not necessarily bad things. It probably means you're figuring something out. And I can go back. I got divorced 7 or 8 years ago, and I can pinpoint the fact that I no longer had to play that game to say that's where I decided to be the actual artist, songwriter, and everything else. And I'd had success before that, but I got to do what I wanted to do. And there were many factors in that, but I was like, oh, hold on a second, I don't have to do this anymore. And that allowed me the opportunity to, I play with a large band called Patrick Davis and his Midnight Choir, and I don't think I would have had the cojones to try to pull that off before, because it's 12, 15, people on stage. It's what I love. It's Lyle Lovett and Joe Cocker and Bruce Springsteen and all this. It's all melded together. Van Morrison. That's my music, but that's the sound because that's what I love. And so I'm not sure I would have done that prior to a certain thing that happened. That of course, anytime a relationship or something like that ends, you have doubts but it also is a new beginning. And that's essentially what I find is that in those moments of doubt or being a little unsure of myself, if you're willing to just keep digging into that and find out why do you have that feeling? What is it? It's probably based in something steeped in reality. And then if you're willing to do the self-reflection, well, I can guarantee you that I'm so much happier than I've ever been in my own existence because I went through some things and made some decisions that kept me being honest. And that's the path to honesty is what we all hope we're on. So yeah, I'm not too worried about doubt or being scared. I think we should all embrace that. That's a human emotion, or a couple of emotions we should understand we all have. My little brother Roger passed away on June 29th, 2008, and he passed away drinking and driving. A single car accident. It's of course terrible and extremely sad and emotional, but looking back on it now, I know that I'm a kinder, gentler human because of that. Going through those emotions, if you're talking about as a songwriter, tapping into that, is pretty. And you asked earlier about songs. I didn't really think about it, but I wrote a song called Numbers, and that song was written about my little brother, about how that date didn't really mean a lot to my family, and of course now it means a million different things. But they're not all bad, and that's my little brother. From that death, which was, of course, once again, I'll just say I'm never going to dispute that it was horrible. We started a charity foundation, and that charity foundation has done incredible works of, from graduating kids at the high school that deserve some, financial assistance in my hometown. But they've also, I parlayed that into building, when there was a hurricane in the Bahamas for my Songwriters in Paradise events, we do it in a place called Hopetown. When Hopetown was hit by Hurricane Dorian, one of the greatest storms in the history of storms, we were able to raise over $1 million for their rebuilding efforts based on the fact that I was able to utilize my little brother's charity that I had started and the head of to raise funds for them. And so there's always, there's Bob Dylan line, and it's behind every beautiful thing there's been some kind of pain, and that's essentially what that is. It's just I know we've all dealt with it. I'm not the only person that's had someone close to me pass away, and as we get older, hopefully as we get older, it's just going to happen more often. I mean, if we're lucky enough to get older, that's part of the pain. And I will miss my little brother forever, and but I would much prefer to have had the 24, 25 years I had with him than to not have had those. And one thing that did come out of it, another positive, we'd started an event called the Roger Rules. It's always wear your seatbelt, don't speed, and never ever drink and drive. And if that's helped one person not do that, then it's well worth it. So we've all dealt with that pain in some way. And but yeah, Roger, he's in every song I play. So there you go. The Couch Covers project that I did, that's my latest recording. As a songwriter, I've literally spent the past 20 years of my life writing songs. But when I started, in the bars and restaurants of Columbia, South Carolina, and Charleston and that area, I played all covers. That's what everybody does. And so it was kind of intriguing to me as I was trying to figure out how to not go insane during COVID when we were locked down in the early days of that. I was like, I'm going to start something called Couch Covers. I'm just going to sit on my couch every day and post on social media me playing a cover tune that I learned that day. And a lot of them I didn't know. I didn't know, Pink Moon or some of these other songs on there. I didn't know those songs before. I mean, I, of course, knew the songs, but I would learn them every day. I'd post them on social media. The response was wonderful, and I always laugh about it, but I really thought I would do about 2 weeks of it, and then we'd be back to normal. And I ended up doing 70 of them in a row, and then I had to throw my hands up. I was like, I can't do any more of these. But what was wonderful was that the reaction, I'd always say, we're all in this shit together. That's what I would say at the end of each one of them, because I was trying to make sure everyone felt a sense of community when we were so far apart. because we were all going through the same thing, and we don't like to. We all want to be individuals. We all want to think we're individuals, but we're all going through the same exact thing here on this planet. And but couch covers allowed me to feel connected to people during a time when I kind of felt all over the place. And I then got so many requests to record an album, and I said, well, that's a crazy idea. So I picked 10 songs out of the 70 that I had done that I felt worked as a collection and that I thought I could do justice on, because some of the couch covers were not as good as others. That's just the way it works. I was kind of like, yeah, that's not as good as it should be. And it's just not, doesn't fit my voice, doesn't fit what I do naturally. So I picked 10 songs, and I also was able to pull together, I have a studio band of musicians in Nashville. I call them my studio midnight choir, because when I tour on the road, this is Patrick Davis and his midnight choir. Well, these guys are Nashville cats. They're some of the greatest musicians in the world, but they don't tour with me because I couldn't afford them. But they tour with me in the studio, and I handpicked those guys because they know what I do, and what they do, we lean on each other properly. And so the songs that came off of couch covers are they do work as a collection. They really, really do work. I've had so many people tell me, and it's the best compliment I can get, that they can put that album on and they can listen to the entire album all the way through, and there's no dead air to them. It's just and it can be on repeat, and they don't care. And that's kind of what I was shooting for. I didn't know exactly that was going to happen, but that was definitely the aim. And as a songwriter, I feel like I know when a song is a great song. And there's a lot of songs out there that we all know that I would question if they're great songs or not. But the songs that I chose for the Couch Covers project, I really believe are songs that I wish, of course we all wish we'd written. And I feel like the process, where it came from during that COVID time frame, everything about it just fell into place. And I am very, very proud of that album. I mean, I produce my own albums. I usually write all the songs. This was another project, though. I was like, wow, I got to make these sound. This has to live up to Elton John and Bernie Taupin. If I'm doing Rocket Man, it better be. It ain't ever going to be Elton John. I get it, but it needs to be really, really good as I can make it. And I feel like, without the risk of sounding I'm often I have no doubt that I'm sometimes overly confident, but when it comes to couch covers, I feel like we did okay. So yeah, I'm proud of that one. Up next for me, well, I never stop. My brain is always moving, and I'm working right now. I'm about 80% finished with a new album. It'll be all original. Covers was great. Maybe a few years from now, maybe I'll re-explore that and do 10 more covers at something, couch covers too. But the new album, I will probably release near the end of the year or the beginning of 2022, depending on, this new exciting world we live in where Spotify, you release your singles and it builds up. And so we'll see how all that works. But, and then I will start playing a bunch of shows in the fall. I also have my Songwriters in Paradise events, and that'll be in Napa, Cabo, Bahamas. That happens this year. It never ends for me, and I enjoy that. I want to stay super busy. I feel I can't express how lucky I feel to get to do what I get to do the way I want to do it. I have a lot of friends in the music industry, and some of them are even insanely successful, that they don't feel like they're doing exactly what they want to do. They've made some twists and turns along the way that have pigeonholed them to do something that and they have to do it now because they have to make money. And I've been very fortunate. I will write songs. I will do all that stuff, but it never stops. That's my idea. New music, touring, and traveling. That's what I love to do. So I'm waiting on them to tell me I can go to Italy, and I'm waiting on them to tell me not to play. I'm going to Positano, boys and girls. It's not to play, but yeah, I'm looking forward to just getting back out there. I've had a great time in the past year and a half. I've been very busy, but I've missed the experiences that we can only get by putting ourselves out there.